to bus 9514, the bus to Sequoia,
Where's the other?
the bus to New Jersey. You guys all know you're going to New Jersey now for dinner, right? That's where. Pretty unique place in Washington, I think. There's two harbor areas. One of them's down in the...
There's a couple of things I want to accomplish here before we get started. First of all, welcome to the capital city of the Republic of the United States of America. And welcome to Hold Their Feet to the Fire 7. I see a lot of faces of people who've been with us before, and more importantly, perhaps, we see a lot of young faces and people that we haven't seen before, united in our determination that this government refund the money to the people who earned it. So, tonight we're going to do some housekeeping, we're going to do some organizing, we're going to do some question answering. We're going to get into it a little bit. It's Hart Building 216 for Boxer at 8:45 on Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning, 8:45, 216 Hart Building, H-A-R-T. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me just have your attention for one more minute, and then we're going to get to eating. I appreciate more than you know the fact that you all spent your own money to come back here to represent all of those people who didn't, couldn't, wouldn't show up here to exercise a basic right. It's a right denied to 99.9% of the other human beings who have ever lived or now live on this planet, and that is the right to directly instruct our employees, who are our representatives in the Congress of the United States, as to what you want on this topic or any other topic, but we're here, of course, about taxes. Jim.
Roger, could you ask if they have any appointments set for on Monday? Yeah, it's for me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now this is probably the most important thing, so if I can have your attention. We have a film crew, students working with Jim Doherty here, and this is going to be a film made out of this adventure. Why don't you talk to Jim, the team leaders who have specific, tomorrow have specific meetings. Would you talk to Jim, because he's going to want to follow some of the teams as they go into these meetings and get this on tape. So particularly with the students, but eventually with everyone over the 3 days, I'd like to get each team on a little bit of the footage so we can get you into the final movie product. So if the team leaders would talk to Jim Doherty, standing right here, he's going to be leading the video team tomorrow, so he's got to make appointments to meet you and follow you with the team. Now, I'll tell you what, anybody being followed by a TV camera, what do you think your chances are of actually seeing the elected official? Let me just give you a hint here. The chances just went up geometrically, just astronomically. So sign up and get him to follow you, and you'll even have a better chance of getting the job done. Now again, don't get frustrated. Perseverance, smile on your face, good walking shoes, good luck. We'll see you tomorrow at the show at 6. Thank you.
This is us!
Oh, here we go.
Welcome to a special edition of the Roger Hitchcock Show. Hold Their Feet to the Fire 7. Today, Roger and a crew of 100-plus listeners converge on Capitol Hill to lobby for the president's tax package and reform the IRS. And now, the host of your community forum, Roger Hitchcock.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to HC8, as the bureaucracy puts it. This little room here in the bowels of the U.S. Capitol building. Maybe I shouldn't have said it quite that way. I don't know, Jim. What do you think? Anyway, welcome. And I know you have had a long day, everyone sitting here in this live audience. And again, as was said, more than 100 of you having paid your own way to be here in Washington, D.C. to lobby for the Bush tax cuts. You have been doing that all day, and we're going to get your individual stories on throughout the day today. It is critical that we make this a national movement to support George W. Bush, to support the refund, to support the notion that the government just isn't as wise at spending our hard-earned money as we are, and the notion that all money is really our money. Boy, you come to Washington and you get a different story here, don't you? Don't they have a different outlook on things here? Anyway, we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. I thought I would start with a parable because I think some people on the other side, and believe me, I feel like I've come to an alien capital. This place last night, and I must tell this story. I don't know whether all of you caught this last night at our dinner. We had dinner at a very nice restaurant, Sequoia, over on the river, and nice private dining room, and we had a chance to hear from Brian Bilbray, and we had a chance to talk about our efforts and hand out some handouts and do some fun stuff. And as we were talking about why we were here, the initial cordiality of the staff of this restaurant dissolved noticeably into the hostility of the other side. It was amazing. I mean, they were dropping plates, making loud comments in the back, laughing and so forth. A very interesting reaction from the staff of this restaurant to why we were there. We were actually, when we walked out of that place, regarded as the enemy because we would dare to suggest that there wouldn't be an infinite supply of money for the infinite variety of good deeds proposed by members of the Congress and the administration. So let me start with this parable. Maybe this is the way they'll understand it. Every night, 10 men met at a restaurant for dinner. At the end of the meal, the bill would arrive, and it would be $100 for the food they shared. Every night, they lined up in the same order at the cash register to pay. The first 4 men paid nothing at all. The fifth, grumbling about the unfairness of the situation, paid $1. The sixth man, feeling very generous, paid $3. The next 3 men paid $7, $12, and $18, respectively. The last man was required to pay the remaining balance, $59. He realized he was forced to pay for not only his own meal, but the unpaid balance left by the first 5 men. The 10 men were quite settled into their routine when the restaurant threw them into chaos by announcing it was cutting prices. Now, dinner for the 10 would only cost $80. Now, this clearly would not affect the first 4 men. They still ate for free. Free is free. The fifth and sixth men both claimed their piece of the $20 savings right away. The fifth decided to forego his $1 contribution. The sixth pitched in $2. The seventh man deducted $2 from his usual payment and paid $5, and the eighth man paid $9. The ninth man paid $12, leaving this last man with a bill still of $52. Outside the restaurant, the men began to compare their savings, and angry outbursts began to erupt. The sixth man yelled, "I only got $1 out of that $20. He got $7, pointing to the last man. The fifth man joined in. "Yeah, I only got $1 too. Is that fair? He got 7 times more than me." The seventh man cried, "Why should he get $7 back when I only got $2 back?" So the 9 men formed an outraged mob, surrounded the 10th man. And the 4 men who never paid anything said, "We didn't get any of that $20. Where's our share?" The 9 angry men carried the 10th man up to the top of the hill and lynched him. The next night, the 9 remaining men met at the restaurant for dinner, but when the bill came, there was no one to pay for it. Now, do you think this gets through a little bit to what we are encountering here? What we're encountering here? Look, we all know, and I'm going to get into your individual stories, what we're up against here, the momentum of 75 years of assumption the government should get bigger and do more things for us and take more of our money to do it. We're up against that momentum, and we're fighting it all the way. We knew when we came here and hold their feet to the fire, whatever the number was, and demanded welfare reform, that we were bucking 60 years of welfare traditions and the entitlement to welfare, and we won. And we came here demanding a balanced budget. We didn't get that into the Constitution as an amendment, but we actually got a balanced budget. We are here to demand a return of just 29% of the projected budget surplus of this government, and by God, we're going to get it for the people of this country. We appreciate all of our wonderful sponsors. Now, the groups have gone out. As I mentioned before, one of the groups is videotaping a lot of what is going on here, including our visits to Congress offices. And you, sir, are part of that group?
Yes, sir.
What's your name?
My name's Aaron Steiner.
And Aaron, do you go to Escondido Charter School?
Yeah.
High school?
I'm one of the students there. I'm a senior.
And you're part of the video crew?
That's right.
Where did you go today?
Well, we went to a press conference with Trent Lott, and he was talking about his tax, about Congress's position on the tax, specifically the Senate, and on George Bush's tax cut.
George W. Bush, okay.
His nickname was George W.
Okay, so George W.'s, because that's where the action is, going to the United States Senate now. And what were you guys doing?
Well, we got there before anyone else was there, before any of the press was there, before even the poll camera was there to set up. And we started setting up our little rig and our camera and started just getting ready. And then everyone else started showing up. We got to talk with some of the press as they came in, and that was really neat. So.
And so you covered it. You got Trent Lott on the video.
We covered the entire press conference, and we gave them cards.
Well, thank you all for joining me this afternoon. This is a point in the legislative schedule where things will start picking up, I believe, pretty fast now, week after week. We will go into session this afternoon at 1 o'clock and go back to bankruptcy reform legislation. I probably will file a cloture motion this afternoon. Graphics you learn in law school, if not other places in life. A picture or a chart's worth 1,000 words. This shows the projected total revenue that would come into the federal government in taxes over the next 10 years. It's $28 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, yes, it is projected. It could be a little less. It might be more. And in recent years, every projection that we've had is exceeded by the next projection because the revenues have continued to go up. Of that amount, 14.1 trillion is projected to be individual income taxes. The proposal the President has made is just 1.6 trillion. So you see how small the green portion is of the total taxes, and even as a portion of the income coming into the government from income taxes. Clearly, this is something we can do, should do. It would still leave plenty of money to be used for protecting Social Security and for Medicare, and also paying down the debt and provide some increases in those areas where there is a feeling we should provide more. And that includes, obviously, education, defense, and the health area. And I did get that cut on my finger working in my yard, so just to show I'm a blue-collar guy here today. I didn't realize it was going to look that bad.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Has the votes to pass the Republican one.
Trent Lott. How you doing? Good to see you. Where are you from?
From San Diego.
All right. Yes, sir. Good.
I remember me from 3 years ago.
Yes, sir. And then I saw somebody else had these cards.
There's a bunch of them.
All right. Good.
I put the time and dates
Okay.
on the back.
All right. Great. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. See y'all later. Okay. Have a good day. Yes, sir.
Get these guys something to eat real quick.
Yeah, we better get something to eat or we're going to drop. Ace is screaming at me.
Let's go down and give you guys something to eat. Let's go down and give you guys something to eat.
In the bottom?
Where's this? Which way?
I'm feeling Coach was like, go find out who they are.
No, James, you were asking how effective the business cards were. When she handed them the business cards, I'm looking at those reporters, and they literally stopped in their tracks, took the business card and read these heads just, it was great. So no.
You mean she's actually?
And we're talking about the highest level news media people.
I got
Anybody else there that wants to contribute to that? Did you hear anything that gives us any kind of a clue which way things are going? Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing he did, yes, he did do a good job of pointing out that the projected surplus is $28 trillion over the next 10 years, and he did point out also that it's a normal procedure. They project out over 10 years. They've been doing that for years, so that's no big surprise that they're projecting it out. And he said all we're asking for, and he really tried to emphasize very much that it was $1.6 trillion is a drop in the bucket, and he did emphasize that to the press. So he made it very clear that they saw no problem with being able to afford the tax relief to the American citizens.
Right. Well, we have a lot of other groups that have gone around. Did anybody else know? Some hands went up when we talked about Barbara Boxer. You got into the office of Barbara Boxer today. Who got into the office today? Hi. What's your name?
I'm Danielle Heddle.
Danielle, now how was it at Barbara Boxer's office today?
We were very well received, actually. It was really interesting because we were California constituents, but we walked in and the lady at the front desk was very nice, and she was on the phone. Obviously, they're very busy, but she handled it very well. She talked to us as soon as we got in, and she tried to set up an appointment with us, and she hooked us up with the lady that scheduled the appointments, and they were very, very nice.
Okay, so you think you're going to be able to see the senator before we leave? You got two more days.
We hope so.
2 more days. You have to be persistent, follow up phone calls and all that sort of thing. Because again, I do think it's important in California. The senators represent 34 million people, but senators from Delaware, I don't know, what is it, 400,000 people, whatever the heck it is. I mean, this is a vast state and still only 2 senators. But I hope we can get in to see both Feinstein and Boxer and let them know how we feel about this. Yes, hi, what's your name?
Denise Cleansing.
And were you also there at Boxer's office?
Yes. What I've noticed is that the senators from California are much more nicer since we're constituents from there. They're very more open, and they've helped us out in a lot of areas.
Good. Good. All right, well, we'll get a report when you actually get... Now, there's a breakfast meeting. Is there not, of Barbara Boxer's breakfast meeting coming up, what, Wednesday?
Yes.
And are you signed up for that?
Yes, we are.
Oh, good. So you can ask her the question about this, right?
Mm-hmm. That's what we plan on doing.
All right, so we'll get a report on Wednesday on that. Now, interest groups are lining up a great array, a battleground, if you will, of interest groups on both sides of this issue. And, as the election showed, the country's kind of divided. The election returns were sort of divided. The Senate is certainly divided. And these interest group phalanxes are certainly divided. With us from the other side of the Great Divide is Bob Filner, representing the South Bay in San Diego. Bob, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I just want to say, I've said every time you've been here, I've come to see you as many days as you were here, and I said the same thing. We're really glad you're here. We may agree or disagree, but American democracy can only function if you all participate in it. Otherwise, it's the special interest groups that take over. Those people who can control money on each side of the issues will control things unless the people are here. And you show that you are here. And the kind of grassroots kind of experiences that you've had are very important, and they're very important for us to know. And I think you see the way the young ladies said they were treated in the senator's office is the way I would like to see Californians treated, and I'm glad to hear that they were. And if they weren't, you would bet I would call Ms. Boxer and Ms. Feinstein and say, hey, there are people from San Diego who were not received well. But your being here is really important. Democracy works only when you get in our faces and hold our feet to the fire.
Yeah. Good, boss.
And Jimmy, that was also...
Roberta, what hotel was it? Our hotel. So it was in the Mark Dayton? Mark Dayton of where?
All you have to do is
Wasn't on it? Perfect. So she's on it.
They're concerned. You want to add to that, and Robert Fike is with us from Americans for Tax Reform on the other side, but those groups, the Sierra Club, the AFL-CIO, the groups that were basically coalescing around the Ashcroft nomination, trying to tube that, who else is in that group that now doesn't want Americans to have more take-home pay?
Well, you won't have to worry about people not publicizing who's opposing this tax cut, because we're going to name them and shame them.
Well, let's do it right now. We've got Common Cause. We've got the NAACP, the Fund for the Feminist Majority.
Oh, the usual gang of suspects.
Indeed. The AFL-CIO, Tony, being one of those. And what a great ironic point. I appreciate it. Now, Roberta here, who's here with her 4 grandchildren, was in an elevator. I won't tell the rest of the story. Roberta, you tell it.
It's one of those major coincidences that the new senator from Minnesota, Mark Dayton, is staying in our hotel. And we went back to rest this afternoon, and when we started to leave, I had to go back to the room twice to get something, and he happened to get in the elevator.
How did you recognize him?
I saw his button.
Oh, you saw the button.
And,
okay.
And I said, are you in Congress? And he said, I'm a senator. And I said, who are you? He's Senator Mark Dayton. And I didn't recognize him because he's new. And so I said, are you a Democrat or a Republican? And he said, I'm a Democrat. So I said, are you a Zell Miller Democrat or a Paul Wellstone Democrat?
Ooh, good choice. Okay, and what did he say to that?
He was quite offended. He said, I'm a Mark Dayton Democrat.
There you go. And he paid enough for the seat, by the way. He's the Dayton Hudson heir, and he paid something like $10 million for this seat.
Naturally, I grabbed my book and looked him up and said, oh, yeah.
I remember this guy, yeah, exactly.
But he started talking. We told him what we were doing, and he talked to, and I said, we want a tax cut. And he said to the kids, you want a tax cut? You pay that much in taxes?
Well, the kids were there too, okay.
This one said, my dad wants a tax cut.
There you go. What did he say to that?
Well, he said, well, in about 6 years, you'll get one. This was, by then we were down, we were getting out of the elevator, and this was his parting remark.
Well, we're going to see if we can put some more heat on those people. What do you think about encountering this senator? What was your reaction?
It was I don't know. I felt like I was in somewhere with someone important.
Yeah, he was a senator, one of 100 people who are going to vote on this.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about his reaction to the questions that your grandma was asking?
I don't know. I think he didn't really want to answer him.
Very good point. He didn't really want to answer, did he? He was caught in an elevator with somebody that wasn't letting him loose. Absolutely. All right, now we've also got somebody who did get to Senator Torricelli, and Robert Fike, you mentioned Torricelli as being one of those folks that, yeah, the tax cut sounds like a good idea, but we might have some ideas in the future about spending. Are you one of those folks?
Yeah, hi, I'm Charles Modica. My group visited Senator Torricelli's office. We were able to talk with his chief financial advisor, and we're hoping to schedule a meeting with him in the future.
Was that, Karl Marx? Or was
one of the things about him and also Olympia Snowe, who is a Republican, is they're both in favor of the full $1.6 trillion, but they are in favor of the triggers. And so what we need to do as people here and all of your listeners is to actually email them, phone them, do everything they can to make our will known. Because if we don't do that, there's a problem. And the 1.6 million, or 1 trillion, I'm sorry, it's a big number, but if you think about it, the tax receipts are going to far exceed that in the next 10 years. So it's a nice number, and we agree upon it, but our group, basically, we agree on it for both principle principle and practical reasons. Principle being less government taxes, less government programs, smaller government, and also practical, we want our money back. But it's so incredibly important that the people back home are emailing and calling and doing everything they can, especially Mr. Terselli and Ms. Snow.
Very good.
If you want to put that number.
Let's first take a call from David in Poway, who's been patiently waiting. David, welcome to Kogo. Welcome to Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi.
Or good evening for you.
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
I'm the son of the woman who was caught in the elevator.
Oh, Roberta. See, we always get the rest of the story here with people who listen to this program. Okay, so Roberta's in the elevator with the senator. That's your mother?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was my son who asked the senator, or mentioned that I would like a tax cut.
Yes. You were quoted, sir, in this elevator in Washington.
And I'm not willing to wait 6 years. I mean, my wife and I work full-time to support a household of 7. We both work. And what got me thinking was I overheard my daughter last week, 10 years old, telling somebody, my dad earns $1 million a year. Whoa, no such thing. So we got to adding things up, averaging out my income. I've held the same job, or been with the same company for 24 years now. And we figured out that over the 24 years, I've earned a total of $768,000. Based on what I usually get taxed, I've taken home $512,000. So it's taken me 24 years to earn just over $500,000 take home. Then I heard you mention that this guy paid how much for that seat in Minnesota?
Yeah, $10 million.
Yeah, well, where's he getting his money?
Well, he inherited it.
Well,
after the estate tax, that's what he got.
As I said, I'm sure my mother has information on who this person is. And I've never been politically active because I've always considered myself too busy earning it and bringing it home. But if this guy's attitude is 6 years from now, I'll get a break. I've decided I'm going to take some action, so I'll be writing this man. I feel like I'm flying I'll have a postmark from there.
Well, that's exactly right. Well, David, and thank you so much for the call, because not only do you have a fine family, and I've gotten to know your son. He had dinner with us last night. He was sitting at our table, and a wonderful young man he is. But I'll tell you, this waking people up is part of this process, because no one wants to be political. I'm convinced about 2% of us who have a genetic defect and we're politically active. You know, but the other 98% are normal people, and they just simply don't want to have anything to do with it under normal circumstances, except that they want the right thing to happen. Americans want fair and right and just things to happen. They have this innate sense of what is fair. And what isn't fair is for the federal government to continue to assume that all of our paycheck should be gobbled up at some point in time by their better ideas of how to spend it. And that's something that I think most Americans are waking up to at this point, and I appreciate the call.
Real tax relief. You're listening to The Roger Hitchcock Show on News Radio 600 KOGO.
Isn't it something? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Capitol Building. We're live in Washington, D.C. with our lobbyists. Isn't it something to hear a president of the United States talking this way? I'm just playing it over and over today because I just love hearing it. You know what I mean? I've been kind of starved the last 8 years to hear a president who talked about this as our money. You know what I'm saying? New York Mike Shelby in the back. Thank you, Mike, again from San Diego Harley-Davidson. New York Mike who paid for the tote bags and the buttons and all that stuff to make sure that we got. And he, of course, drove his. What did you drive the Harley out?
I came up from Daytona, Roger. I've been out in Daytona at Bike Week. By the way, first Bike Week without a helmet law, and we set a record for safety. So it's been wonderful. And it was a great ride up, and it's great to be here. And, hey, you guys are great. This is important because this is what gets the job done. You know, I called up Senator Campbell today.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's your buddy. How's he going on this?
Yeah, well, you know, I think he's going to cut the taxes.
Yeah.
But I called up, and in his office answered the phone. They said, hey, Mike, get all these guys from San Diego in here. They're all your buddies. So they're taking over. So, you know, you guys are really doing the job, and it's, you know, it's noticeable. These people listen to what the constituents say. It's a great job.
New York Mike, thanks for being with us. Yep. Thanks for the support. We'll see you during the entire 3 days here. And we are doing this Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, so stay tuned. We're going to have everybody's story on. Let's see if we can get some more of our lobbyists on. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Devin Galindo.
Devin, and who was on your list today? Did you get to anybody?
We went to all of our senators, and we stopped in to see Senator Boxer today.
You did? How'd that go?
Well, my younger brother and I walked into our office alone, and we asked to see the chief of staff or a PR person or someone we could talk to about her position on taxes. And they laughed at us. They just kind of looked at us and laughed, and then we still stood there, and they're like, "Oh, you're serious?" And they went back to find someone. And finally came back. They finally came back, and it was her AA or a staffer or someone, and he sat down and he actually talked to us. But he wasn't much better off. We were much better off with him than we were with her. He was very condescending and pious, and just really talking down to us and trying not to use too many big words. But he stayed and talked to us.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is the wrong way to handle a teenager, in case you haven't.
Yeah, I was really impressed how many ways he found it, just say the same thing over and over again just to us. We stayed and talked to him for about probably half an hour, maybe a little longer, but it was not a really great experience. It was very different from the other group that went in there.
I will tell you that I had the same exact frustration I could hear in your voice at a bar. Good story start that way. No, don't let me. Where next to me, completely coincidentally, is this guy who is the PR guy for Paul Wellstone and his press guy. And what are you in town for? Well, where do you work? You know, those kinds of things that the guys do as they sit at bars. And he tells me, and I tell him, and we get into this conversation, and it was the same thing. We were just talking past each other. His common worldview was any dollar government had was a good dollar because good would be done. And my thing was, you thieves, just give me back my money. So we were kind of just going right past each other. You know? But a couple of drinks later, it both made sense. And let's talk to some of the people who have been here talking to our legislators. Hi, sir. What's your name?
Joe Stevens.
And who'd you see today, Joe?
Well, I just wanted you to know first that I walked 247.5 miles today.
I appreciate that. That's a record, maybe.
Now, this is just a simple story, and you can draw your own conclusions. We stopped at many offices, senators and representatives, and in most offices, the pictures on the wall were 8 by 10, modest, discreet pictures. You know, maybe the candidate shaking hands with a famous golfer or something like that. Okay, we went on, and we happened to pass an office that was occupied by a lady, a newly elected senator from New York. I just can't recall her name.
Mental block.
And over there, and the wall, the back wall, right where you can see it when you walk in, was a large, very large picture of herself. Now, I have one question. If anybody knows who this lady is, can you see me after the meeting?
Thank you, Joe. Well, the things you learn. See, you wouldn't have gotten this on the Dan Blather news story. Yes, sir. Hi.
Hello, my name is Kevin Cheney.
Hi, Kevin.
I had an interesting experience today that might illustrate what we're up against.
May I interrupt you just to ask you about you're not related to the vice president, or are you?
I tell my friend he's my Uncle Dick, but no.
Now, you said you pronounced your name Cheney.
Cheney, that's right.
Which is the way I think he pronounces, except that's all the rest of us have said Cheney for so long, he's kind of caved in. I think we just caved into Cheney. No, is it actually Cheney?
It is Cheney, yes.
All right, go ahead.
There is no A, and it's spelled with an E.
Now, and what is the, because I have curiosity about these things, what is the derivative? Where did this name come from?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's what my dad said, how it's said, so that's how we say it.
And when Dad said it was so, that was the end of the story. Okay. All right, I understand perfectly. Go ahead.
Anyway, we met in one of the congressman's office, Kucinich from Ohio today. We met an aide, and we were discussing the surplus and what should be done with the surplus, and he was telling us what he needed the money for, and we told him that he should set his budget according to his income, not the other way around. That you can't set your income before your budget. And he said, well, that's the way business works, not the government.
At least they're being honest.
So he is being honest, and I asked him, can you explain to me why that would be any different? Why would the government operate differently than a business or a private citizen? He had absolutely no answer, and he got very defensive, and we promptly left.
See, he needs to hear this, though. He needs to hear from ordinary
citizens. Yes, and he was back on his heels. And,
good for you. Good for you. Great story. Let me take a break. We'll come back. More stories to come. Our lobbyists and their efforts today. I'm Roger Hitchcock. We're live in the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Hold their feet to the fire 7. We'll be back right after a check of the afternoon traffic situation. Here's Rick Lawrence. Rick. Will be available now. I promised to share with you some of the people that George Bush is bringing to Washington. I first want to tell you that some of the people we've brought to Washington are just remarkable, and I don't want to embarrass Al Romero in any way, but Al, if you could just stand up, I want to recognize you. This is a veteran of the Korean War. And show people, turn around, Al, show people what you've got on your chest. He was wearing this today to the Congress of the United States. And Al, I know there's a tremendous story behind it, but if you know your Korean War history, he's a veteran of Chosin Reservoir, and that means he's one of the very few that came out. There, thank you very much. Thank you for your And we'll talk about that because the quality of people that came on this trip is just terrific, and I just want to go, I'm going to go a little bit light on that today, but as I get through this 3 days, some very remarkable people are here. And we'll also get some reports. We're here with fellow listeners to this program. 100 plus of you have paid your way to be back here as lobbyists, and we are lobbying for the Bush administration tax cut. And I've made a little list here, and let's get down to cases. These are the most powerful people now in the United States on this issue, members of the United States Senate. They are both Democrat and Republican. The Democrats are as follows: Torricelli, New Jersey; Landrieu, Mary Landrieu from Louisiana; John Breaux from Louisiana; and Mr. Cleland from Georgia. You have Cleland?
I did Cleland.
Did you see him today?
Legislative aid today.
Wait a minute. Don't speak yet until we have a microphone that works. Is that working yet? Let's test it, Jimmy. All right, let's try this.
We spoke with his legislative aide today, and he told us that Senator Cleland is very willing to support the Bush tax, but with a few modifications.
These are, I hate that when they say but, or with a few. Okay, but this is actually good news because in Georgia, the overwhelming public sentiment in Georgia, and that's why Zell Miller, the other member of the Senate from Georgia, who is also a Democrat, has already endorsed the Bush position.
And the 4 of us that went felt that it was a good report, really and truly.
Good, because he's getting a lot of feedback from Georgia. He's a very key vote, Cleland, so good for you.
And the legislative aide was very, very much in tune with us.
Good.
Because he said he'd like to have a tax refund, too.
See, now there's a guy after my own heart. Yeah, I want a tax cut, too. Good. Good for him. Good, thank you.
No, the other guy's not here yet.
But we're pretty much on time.
The other guy's not here yet. So.
Okay.
Not for quite a while, I'm not really sure. Gets the group from San Diego is here for Michael.
What I'll do is I'll interview you guys when you come out, okay?
Okay.
I'll wait out.
Oh, of course, all right.
Or I'll just turn the gear off. Go ahead, let me just slam the door in my face. You pointed at Ben.
Surprise. Good morning.
Bye.
That was fun.
Well, how did things go? What'd you?
He sounded very encouraging.
Did he?
That the Bush plan will, with some changes, modifications, will be passed by the Senate. And we urged him to make it fast.
Do it.
Yeah, I asked
because we need it.
His time frame, and he said by June, he thought.
Really?
Maybe May, end of May.
And the final Democrat, Lambert Lincoln, the woman from Arkansas, who is, have you talked to her today?
No, but we did talk to her.
Wait a minute, don't talk until the microphone is in front of you or you will not be heard. There you go.
We actually had 3 other senators to go talk to. One was Daniel Inouye. Well, he was elected with 79%, and he still doesn't have an idea what his stand is for a tax cut. We've talked to his press secretary today, and she just didn't have any word for us at all.
Did you talk to Lambert Lincoln?
Then we went to Tim Johnson's office.
Did you get to Lambert
Lincoln? Yeah. Well, we went to the other 2 that we had.
Okay, well, then we'll go back.
Okay. No, we went to Landrieu. We saw Mary Landrieu coming out of the elevator, and we gave her the information that we had. We have a flyer and a thank you note and all of this. Yeah. And she says, well, I'm for a tax cut, but not this one. And I said, well, maybe you'll change your mind since you were only elected with 50%. Whoa! And she just left. So sometimes you do see them when they get out of the elevator.
Oh, yeah.
But we saw Tim Johnson from South Dakota, who's another swing man. He was elected with 51%. We saw his administrative assistant, and he's got one of these flyers out here that's written by Citizens for Tax Justice, you know, and they say that half of the people in the state of South Dakota aren't going to get anything anyway, so why should they even vote for it? And then, you know, Bush's tax cut is giving 34 or 43% of the taxes to the 1% of the top, and all of that. So hopefully we'll get through to him.
All right.
And then we saw Jim Jeffords' office.
Yep.
And he's another one. We spoke to Eric Samuelson or something like that. He's the press secretary. And they're not sure about the size, the scope, of course. The marriage tax penalty, they're for, but they want the earned income tax credit to increase also, so that the lower income people can get something back out of taxes that they don't pay.
Okay.
So that's our report.
All right, good. All right. Well, here's the list. So those are the Democrats: Torricelli, Landrieu, Breaux, Cleland, and Lambert Lincoln from Arkansas. The Republicans, and maybe some of you touched base with some of these folks today: Chafee, Rhode Island; Snow of Maine; Collins of Maine, the 2 women from Maine; Specter of Pennsylvania, who's certifiably crazy; and Jeffords of Vermont. Have you been listening to Specter lately?
Yes.
This guy is bizarre, isn't it? Have you hit some of these folks? Now, again, don't speak till you get a microphone. Have you hit some of these folks?
We also went to Sue Collins' office today. And there again, the aide was very responsive to us.
Good.
But she feels that there should be a little modification also. So we need to work on her more.
These people with these modifications, do they happen to mention which modification they wanted?
Not really, no.
I see.
They just think his tax plan is a little too big, and it's so uncertain. And so we ask, well, what about this wonderful surplus that we've had the last 2 years that President Clinton has created? And they say, oh, well, that isn't a real figure. That's just something that they think. And I said, well, that's not what we've been told for the last 2 years.
Well, no, not only, that's exactly right. Clinton wasn't saying that, or Gore on the campaign trail. They were saying it was real money.
Yes.
And a real surplus.
Yes.
And that they did it. On the other hand, the Republicans, including these Republicans you saw,
yes,
were in on an 8% increase in the budget last year alone. An orgy of spending of real money from that surplus, they say, is just conjecture.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they spend it, it's real money. Every time they talk about a tax relief, it's it's conjecture.
Now, we also went to Hillary Clinton's office today.
You did?
Yes. And we talked.
It's a cultural foray, if ever there was.
We talked with her aide, April. She was very nice.
Was she wearing Birkenstocks? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
We didn't get very far convincing her to convince Hillary. Hillary just thinks Bush's tax plan is just too big. And she wants to cut down on government spending.
Oh,
that's
sure.
her aim.
Sure.
Yes.
This I want to hear. Okay. Thanks. All right. 1-800-600-KOGO. Let's get to back to our lobbyist here. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Erin Restoven from Escondido Charter High School.
Hi, Erin.
Thank you.
One of the many high school students we have with us. Wonderful to hear from you.
And I'm lobbying with a group of a couple girls from the school. And today we didn't have much success with getting to speak to many people, but we did get some interesting reasons why we could not speak to the senators, such as Senator Sessions. He was our first stop. He's from Alabama and a Republican. And when we went in there and requested to speak with the senator, the receptionist gave a very fishy reasoning for why we couldn't go in there. She said that he had to step out in order to make some phone calls. And we were wondering why, if we pay so much money towards taxes, why don't all our senators have phones in their offices?
Well, you'd think by this time they'd have phones. The next question was, who is he calling that he has to use a super secret line? That's what I want to know.
Yes, and so we found that kind of an interesting response to our request. And we also went and we spoke with, or we tried to speak with Senator Schumer, I believe you pronounce it, from New York.
Yeah, he's the other senator from New York.
Yeah. And we requested to speak with him, and his whole office was actually very nice, and they welcomed us with open arms, and we weren't able to speak with anyone of importance. The receptionist was very kind, though. He immediately asked if we had a card or if we would like to possibly speak with an aide, if he could get a hold of one, and it ended up that we couldn't speak with one, but he offered us seats, and he was very welcome to taking information for us, and he was very welcome to the idea of us calling in and making an appointment for some time. So hopefully we're gonna get on that and try and make an appointment for the next couple days.
Good.
And also we got an interesting remark from one of the secretaries or receptionists in Senator Sarbanes' office, and she said, when we told her we were lobbying about the Bush's tax program, she asked if we were for or against it. And when we mentioned for, then she said, well, it seems that everyone's in favor of a tax cut. It's just a matter of how much. And we found that a very interesting remark. And so,
what did you think that remark meant, by the way? Because I have a reaction to that too, but what was your reaction?
It was kind of mixed in our group. It sounded like she was trying to brush us off and just kind of like, oh yeah, we agree with you, kind of. And she was just like, I don't know. It was a very interesting remark. And
there is the personal brush-off side of it, which I agree with you. That's what it is. There's also the political side of it, though. When I hear people say, "Oh, well, I agree with you. It's just that we need to tweak it a little bit. We have some concerns. We have something." You know, what that tells me is they're on the run, because they had to agree with the basic premise, which is there has to be some kind of tax relief. When they're on the run, that's when you pour on the coal and get them on the run all the way, you know, all the way out. Because these people, with Sarbanes, a liberal like that, is saying, well, no, I'm for tax. He's not for tax cuts at all. And if the political tide was running the other way, that guy'd be for a tax increase in a heartbeat.
Yes.
Now, we have just 1 minute, but I want to find out about Senator Breaux. Did you hit Senator Breaux today?
Yeah, we took off. I'm Shirley Kaltenborn. We took off and did 21 people today.
Wow.
21 people. Wow. My last one was Breaux, and we spent a half an hour with Lindsay Spiller. And he's yes on the tax cut, he's yes on the marriage tax cut, he's yes on the estate tax cut. She would not give us a position on the capital gains.
Yeah.
And she said right now he's working real hard on campaign reform.
Yeah.
You know, and she basically said, look, the House is going to pass it in pieces, the Senate is going to put it together, and then we'll come up to an agreement.
All right, we're going to be back here tomorrow. We're going to be back here the next day. We're going to be back here until we get a tax cut for all of America. We are here in the Capitol building, backed up by all of you back in San Diego. Thanks so much, everybody, for being here. Thanks so much for listening today. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Roger Hitchcock. Your community forum continues in Washington, D.C. Brian's supposed to be here?
A luxury liner.
You're doing the tour.
God, we'll never find any of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for a minute.
Hang on a second.
From last night, John, excuse me. Last night, Brian Bilbray promised that he'd be here now to give a tour, so we're going to wait a minute for Brian, if you would like a tour of the Capitol building, this guy really knows the history and the ins and outs of the Capitol building. It's well worth it. So let's see if Brian shows up the next minute or two here. I wanted to remind you. Thank you.
No, yeah, that's right. The tape that's in there, run it, Luke. Run it till it's dead. When he shows things, I want close up.
To do this, it's the largest bronze statue anywhere. It weighs 57 tons. Has 6 soldiers on it, standing on it. There's actually standing on rock from Mount Suribachi, the mountain they climbed to take over the Japanese. And these rocks were so sharp that they were not only cutting their legs and their pants, but they were cutting the sides of their boots open. When those guys reached the top of that mountain, they were all scarred and cut up from the rocks that they were falling on. Because every time they tried to get up, the Japanese would shoot. If they hit the ground, they were falling on some very sharp rocks. You can see just how sharp these rocks are. What really happens is it's an optical illusion. And as we come around the corner and approach this, you're going to actually see the flag start coming right up. And by the time you get around, the flag is going to be straight up and down. There you go. Straight up and down right here in front of the bus. Pretty good trick, eh?
Needed not only to provide a kickstart to our economy, it is needed because many Americans today are struggling to make ends meet.
Welcome back to the Roger Hitchcock Show and Hold Their Feet to the Fire 7. Let's return to Washington, D.C. with the radio mayor of Southern California.
Thank you, and welcome back. And obviously you all, and we'll get your stories individually throughout this show here, but you all are doing your job because now I'm hip deep in congressmen. I mean, yesterday we couldn't find one. But this is it's a wonderful opportunity to introduce you to a wonderful guest here. Johnny Isakson is a Republican in 6th District in Georgia and has joined us at the Kogo microphone. We were just talking a little bit about Zell Miller, a Democrat, fine gentleman, a former governor of Georgia, and now a United States senator, who has in fact been the first Democrat to endorse the Bush tax cut plan from Georgia. Is he reading the tea leaves there in Georgia? Is there popular support for this tax cut?
Well, you know, Zell Miller, as governor, had a favorite saying. He said, you know, I don't find most Georgians on the right or left. I find them in Kmart. And if you go in Kmart, you'll find people who want a tax cut. Zell Miller is a very smart man.
Building live from the basement, the secure nuclear safe basement. I think this is Duke, isn't it? Nuclear secure down here in the basement of the Capitol building. I wouldn't bet on it. I think the thickness of these walls, I don't know. In any event, we are here live, and a lot of weary-looking lobbyists here from our group, our citizens group, out there talking to Congress members, senators, and members of the House. And we will be talking to them in a moment as well and throughout this day on how things are going. You know, and we'll get a first-hand report here in a moment. We're going to welcome to our microphones the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Trent Lott, who is joining us shortly. You know that in the press there has been a tremendous amount of conjecture as to what will now happen to the House-passed Bush tax cut, the across-the-board tax relief for every tax-paying American. That is going to the United States Senate, and there is a bunch of conjecture by senators and others as to what's going to happen to that tax cut now. In fact, the latest, just to give you the flavor, and maybe you have seen this and maybe not, UPI reporting that the Senate Budget Committee Chairman Pete Domenici, a Republican from New Mexico, is talking about some kind of a trigger. So to trigger or not trigger the tax cuts based on the availability of a continuing surplus. I hope that we will start talking about triggers that if they go over 4% increase in spending, their salaries are reduced to 0 until they get the budget.
And a couple of tours.
I want you to talk about all those good shipbuilding. Absolutely. We built them, passed building, and we stationed them at San Diego. We can work a deal on that, can't we? Absolutely. You, yes, sir. Thank you very much. Good seeing you. I got what you want to put. Duke's good seeing you.
Of course, right there is good. We'll need these when you come back. I'm going to talk a little bit about triggers. Triggers? Yeah.
I mean, like
Roy Rogers.
I don't know who came up with that. Oh, sure. Okay, thank you very much. Now, you're taking a break and you're going to come back?
Yeah, they're on commercial break back in San Diego.
Are you and I going to talk and then we're going to take questions?
Yeah.
Do I need to put these on?
When we come back, you'll hear a program.
All right, great.
And what we're going to do, we're here like 103 people have come with me, paid their own way.
Well, how long is this break going to be?
2 minutes.
How much time you got left?
We got about 2 minutes left.
But may I speak to this group?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could have attention, please.
Well, first, let me welcome you all to your nation's capital. Is this a delegation from San Diego, California? Anybody in this room support tax relief for working Americans? And I just want to say it's a pleasure to have you here. I apologize for my tardiness, but as a matter of fact, the Senate is in session, and we have just completed one of the votes that we've been having on the bankruptcy reform legislation. So I just wanted to acknowledge your presence, speak to you before we go back on the air. I understand this is the hottest shoe on the West Coast.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Thank you. I want to thank Roger publicly for the job he does. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Good job. Now we're about 20 seconds. All right.
Roger, next electricity.
How'd you like my ponytail?
Subject to underwriting approval.
Stand by.
Equal housing opportunity. This radio station.
You're listening to The Roger Hitchcock Show on News Radio 600 KOGO.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to our community forum. Welcome to the Capitol building in the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., and welcome to our microphones, the Majority Leader in the United States Senate from the great state of Mississippi, Trent Lott. Trent, welcome to the program.
Well, Roger, it's an honor to be here with you. Have all these people from California with us.
It's wonderful to see you, sir, and what a great job you're doing in difficult circumstances. We appreciate it. 50-50 is not exactly what a Majority Leader would like.
No, we'd like to have a few more. In fact, we'd like to have 2 more Republican senators who support tax relief for working Americans from California.
Yes, we can. Because we don't even have one.
That's right.
And that's a tough thing.
And I would be happy.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to our community forum. We're live in between the breaks and so forth. And I'm saying we have a lot to do, and I want to do it very, very quickly. First of all, if you want to tour the Kennedy Center, we have some tickets courtesy of Duncan Hunter for people, and Sandy Carter has those. Hold them up if you want to tour the Kennedy Center. I don't want you to take away from your lobbying time, but if you have time to do that. And Duncan, I don't know, we had some problem with getting people into the White House. What can we do about that?
Yeah, we Republicans have had that problem for 8 years, but it's over.
Now that it's over,
did you hear, Roger, what happened?
What?
You know, one of the, the Marines do a lot of jogging on Pennsylvania, and this tough old Marine gunnery sergeant jogged up with his recruits 6:30 in the morning, right to the first guard post, and he said, "We want to see President Clinton." The guy says, "President Clinton's not here." He said, "It's President Bush now." Comes in the next day and he says the same thing. "We want to see President Clinton." He says, "President Bush, it's not President Clinton." He did it a third time, and the guy said, "Listen, buddy, I've told you 3 days in a row, it's President Bush. He's running the country now, not President Clinton." And this tough old gunnery sergeant said, "I know, we just like to hear you say it."
So you're going to get them into the White House?
Here's what we can do. I can go down with a certain number of people. I don't know what the limit is, but I'll be happy to show up at 8 o'clock in the morning. We need to do this 8 o'clock in the morning. If you want to go, we'll do a members tour. And I don't know if that's like 10 or 15 and how much advance I've got to give them, but we will call them, because I know the trusty Mike is right outside. We will call them and see if we can get people in.
Maybe Mike can do that, because I've got only got 2 more mornings.
People tour the White House, and that seems to be a big sell, but I think Jim Madaffer and I'd be more than happy to let him tour that scenic City Hall. I'm sure that'd be a big treat for him.
City Hall would be a big treat. Come down. I don't see a lot of excitement for that.
I didn't see any hands.
I'm sure there's a delayed reaction. I'm sure they're going to be right on it.
I think they're thinking about it.
Now let's go to the team leaders and talk a little bit about those folks who've been doing the lobbying. Hi, what's your name?
Bill Clapp.
Bill,
Roger.
Bill, good. How are you doing?
I'm doing just great. This is our second trip here. I brought my girlfriend Cindy, and this year I brought my daughter Phaedra, 21 years old, and she's having a great time. We're all having a real good time, but it would be nice to go on that White House tour, because I went last time, and I'd like to see the White House in a little cleaner state.
Well, now, Roger, listen, I just checked with Mike. Mike said that yesterday we checked with the White House, and they said they are absolutely packed and stacked. He's going to go back and call them again and see if they've got any cancellations, any openings. And if not, Mike, it's going to be your fault.
You're
going to get fired again.
Let's take a call here from Stan in El Cajon. Stan, welcome to Kogo. Hi.
Hi, Roger. Thank you for taking my call. Is Duncan with you?
Yes, he's right here paying attention, which is...
I want to thank him at the end of this call, but I'll go to my topic, which is your topic. My grandfather pioneered in Imperial Valley, and when he died and left the estate to my parents, it was about 1,200 acres. And so we're particularly concerned about that estate having tax that would require of us to have to sell the property to pay the tax.
Listen, I'm so glad you called in, Duncan here, because you made exactly the point that we've been trying to make. You know, even if people were allowed to be totally selfish and a community was asked, how would you like to get taxes out of people who have farms and have businesses in the way that is best for you? The worst thing you can do, if you're a community that has farms that are working, that are employing people, that are buying fertilizer, buying machinery, if you're the community, the worst thing you could do in terms of extracting money from that economic base is to shut them down. And when you force a farm to sell off, you shut them down. And you know what I was thinking, Roger, as we were talking, and Bob was saying, well, I've never heard of farms like that. I was thinking of Buck Knives in El Cajon. Was founded by Grandpa Buck. It's employed up to 800 people. Now, what if you had a 55% tax on that operation, and you've got 700 or 800 San Diegans working there, and all of a sudden you have to liquidate to pay your estate taxes? You haven't put the Bucks out of business. You've put 800 working families out of business. You've put out of business the guys that were selling their cars to them at Drew Ford. You're putting out of business the people that are doing the laundry, the people that are selling groceries. The worst thing you can do is to shoot yourself in the foot by taking all of these businesses that are family-run businesses and you cut them up to the point where they're no longer economically viable. You know, and as Abraham Lincoln said, you don't help the workers by burning down the factory. Well, you should have said that, Bob.
No, I hear the arguments that Duncan is making, and these are red herrings. The Democrats agree with every word he just said. The Democrats agree. We will abolish tomorrow. Put it on the floor of the House. We will abolish the estate tax for farmers and for small business people who want to give it to their families. That is not what the argument is about. And they keep raising these issues, which are red herrings. We agree. Put it on the floor tomorrow, just what you said today, and we'll all vote for it. What we're not voting for is the $500 million, the $2 billion, the $8 billion, and these guys are not double taxed. They never pay taxes on the capital gains to begin with. So let's not throw out these phony issues, all these guys.
So in other words, your solution is the $4 million exclusion.
Our exclusion that we offered and would vote on tomorrow excludes 98% of all estates. And the estate tax only applies to 2% of the whole nation anyway. So you're only left with a small number of people.
Okay, I've got a question for Bob Tiller, my colleague. I got a question for you, Bob.
You guys, can you listen?
Now, Bob,
if you want to, what are you all yelling about? That the estate tax only applies to 2%?
Yes. Now, Bob, let me ask you an honest question about the 2%.
That's the fact. When you're dealing with over the 675,000 exclusion per person, when it's a couple, it's $1.2 million. You find me more than 2% of people who die every year that have to pay an estate tax.
Okay, now, Bob, let me ask you a question about those 2 million people. Hunter here. Now, if you had a business in San Diego that was a big business, family came in, has a big aerospace operation, and they're employing 2,000 people, and you say this is a $100 million business, and by golly, we're going to let the small guys go, but we want government to get their share of that $100 million.
Who are you talking about?
But if you do an analysis, and you see that
business...
Now, Bob, if you see an analysis that 5,000 San Diegans are going to lose their jobs as a result of that.
You're talking about a corporation. You're not talking about a family. Tell me a family business that has that. Name one.
Well, you just asked me to name one. I just gave you the Bucks over in El Cajon. It's got 900 people.
The Evans family owns the Catamaran and the Bahia Hotel. That's worth a lot more than that.
We're talking about, when you give us our exemption, you're talking about a very few people.
But they employ lots of people, Bob, and that's what you're making.
San Diego Trust and Savings Bank.
San Diego Trust and Savings Bank was a good example. They were actually driven out of
Absolutely. I banked there for 30 years, and they had to sell because of Mr. Sefton's age. And then they sold to Wells Fargo or some god-awful thing, and the service just went to bad.
Well, there's another example. The Sefton family had been in business since the 1880s. San Diego Trust and Savings Bank, and they had to sell.
We had this.
Craig Lake.
We had the same situation, Roger. My father and mother worked for 30 years, getting 2 pieces of property in Lemon Grove. When she passed away, one was valued at about $500,000. One was just about the same. We put that together with the house and the house that they bought for my granddaughter, and our estate was over that. We're very simple, middle of the road, medium income people, and we had to pay. And I think that our story goes completely across the United States.
You're exempt. You were over what, did you say? How much was the estate worth?
How much was the estate worth?
Yeah.
It was worth about $1,700,000.
Right, and I'm saying, again, our proposal, which will pass tomorrow, if the Republicans would put it on. I don't know why they won't take it.
Well, where have you been for 6 years
and
with
then
this proposal? Come on, where you been? You guys, you know, this is...
No, you've been in charge for 6 years.
This is a great exercise that we've got, because when the Republicans put out a $10 cut, you're always willing to come with an $8 cut, but only because we came with a $10 cut. Now, President Clinton did not have...
So why don't you take it and run? You've been successful.
President Clinton did not come to this town with a lot of appreciation of doing away with the state taxes. He saw it as a way to make a lot of money and bring in revenues for the federal government. He liked them, and as a result of that, just like the marriage penalty, we didn't get any cooperation. Now we're going to make this thing work.
All right, we're going to take a break. It's about our microphones. Let's have a warm San Diego welcome for John Peterson. He is from the great state of Pennsylvania, and welcome, Congressman Peterson, to our microphone. Republicans in the 5th District. We're also visited by Wisconsin's Mr. Ryan, Congressman Ryan. Pat Ryan, thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks to be here.
Got to turn that on? Let's see. Let's turn it on.
There, now I think it's on.
No, I can't hear you anymore.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. That's better.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul Ryan. Thank you. Paul Ryan.
See, Jimmy, it's dyslexic writing. You just got to go.
That looks like Pat, actually. Yeah.
Paul Ryan, thank you so much for being here from Wisconsin.
Nice to be here.
And maybe you could give us, do we have any hope with your senators on this tax cut bill going over?
I don't think so.
It's like California, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, we don't. We're in the same boat you people are.
Yeah, exactly. We're just, it's like talking to a log,
it is.
you know, in terms of the logic of the tax cut.
That's all the cost, and they're charging per kilowatt hour. That's the equivalent of saying if you sign
Oh, I'm sorry. Look at the light up here.
He's a good guy.
No,
but he said last time it was just when the governor was going to start by, and he said, no, yeah, you know, it sounded really good last time. It looked like the governor was taking care of it.
They were a private company from the beginning. They were privatized in the 1880s or 90s as a private company. Every county took that over saying that was San Diego for all the citizens. We got natural gas. That's how we got started with utilities being important to private sector. They used to be, they were all run by private companies.
Talk to the Commandant Marine Corps and they're on board. So call 1-800-HOLD-ON. They're working it. The Marines are working it right now. We've got to make it. That's the easy way to hold on. You do not. And by doing that, we should be
Spin the reels and watch as the first reel stops. $35,649.
I'll tell you, I want to do this. Anytime anybody says, all your cost is manifest in the kilowatt hour, solar's off. Turnkey. You like paying 25 cents per kilowatt hour? You like
you're still at
370. Starting in July.
Paralyzed by the shock. You know what's happening right now is
with the city in August.
Leave it.
Get late
you know, the things I learned today is I lead you a megawatt larger every day. Take a shot at the Strictly Slots magazine named the loosest slots in San Diego. Just I-8 to 67. Aurora Casino, loosest slots. I know, you got the whole economy built out.
My battle call bill, electricity is. You realize we got the coldest government. We got about 500 businesses. President drops it until
what are you actually going to say in your own destiny? You do. That's because of BMW.
Appreciate you being here.
Very nice seeing you. Thank you.
Thank
you.
30 seconds.
We're working on that. We're pressing them hard. So, can you believe that? And I saw some estimates in the paper.
10 seconds, stand by, please.
Driving machine. Roger Hitchcock's Hold Their Feet to the Fire 7 is brought to you in part by San Diego Harley-Davidson. We know it's not the destination, it's all about the journey. You're listening to the Roger Hitchcock Show on News Radio 600 KOGO.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to our community forum. Welcome to the Capitol building, and welcome to special guest to our Hold Their Feet to the Fire 7. And we welcome him back, Congressman Bob Barr of Georgia. Bob, thanks very much for being here.
Roger, it's an honor to be here. It's a pleasure. As always, thank you very much.
Well, you saw by the reaction you got walking into the room. There's a lot of people who love you in this room, and we appreciate all the work you've been doing, the service to
I ought to hang out with you more often.
Hey, Bob said if you invited him back, Clinton would be gone.
That's right. He is. Bob Barr is here, and Clinton is not. That's the news of the hour.
office, and we talked to Ryan Donovan, his legislative assistant.
Now, who's Brad Sherman?
Brad Sherman is the 24th district in California, which is out in the Thousand Oaks area, I think.
Republican or Democrat?
And, he's a must be a Democrat.
Is he a Democrat, Bob?
Definitely. He's a Democrat. We found,
what was the first clue?
His was that we should have a budget before we have any tax cuts. And we've heard in our contact with all the with the other side, that don't want the tax cuts. The two reasons have been, one is that it's too big. The other is that we should have a budget first. Now with this Donovan, he said, because you don't want to, how much you're going to know how much you're going to spend until you have a budget. Well,
how did you respond to that?
I told him, I said, I lost a job once, and my income went down. I said, what do you think happened to my budget? He didn't say anything after that.
Every year, they don't even change them.
So we need to adjust the budget. But those were the two streams. So there's a coordinated response as far as I'm concerned. Either. They did, Senator Kerry's office did admit that there was going to be a tax cut of some kind, but they thought the one that was going through was too big. The guy finally admitted that he didn't think 39% or any of it was too much to be taxed. And
that wasn't too much.
Again, I got a
what
clue.
was your response to that?
No, it wasn't friendly, but I
would have responded by saying, whatever percentage you want to send in, sir, please don't let us inhibit you. If you think 75% of your income should be sent to the government, please do so. Write your check today.
I forget my exact response, but it was kind of on those lines. But obviously, we got a clue because he did sit down with us for about 15 minutes.
That's good.
A lot of them have not even been willing to do. But he sat down with us, and he had a long legal pad that he took out, and it looked like he was going to make notes, but he made not one note. And then about 5 minutes before we were through talking to him, he folded up his legal pad, so he was done before we were. I know that.
All right, Jerry, good effort today.
Hello, my name is Brendan Reddy. I am a student at Escondido Charter High School. I spoke with a few of the aides, the representatives today.
Good.
One of the aides I spoke with was an aide to Representative Conyers of Georgia. Excuse me, of Michigan. Yeah. And this guy. Yeah. And this guy was all for government expansion and social welfare programs. He told me that I should sit back, relax, and let the government pay for my college education. And that also when I get sick, I should just let the government take care of my illness.
If you wanted your illness taken care of a little bit, I mean, the guys that run the DMV are not the guys you want handling health care. Did you get into it a little bit with him?
Yeah. This guy was spitting out all kinds of facts, figures, and numbers. He told me that the government hasn't wasted any of our hard-earned money.
By the way, I have a report, just so you know. We got an embargoed copy, but this is a report done every year by the Citizens Against Government Waste. And let me show you the thickness of it. I don't know how many exact pages this is, but it's dozens of pages of fraud, waste, and abuse in the government. And yesterday I had only one example. They've embargoed it, so I can't really tell you what it is. But yesterday we had the Greyhound Bus Museum in Hibbings, Michigan, which had been funded by the federal government. And you probably voted for this.
Please don't ask me to.
I'm a little over that.
I hope I did. I hope I didn't.
Duke voted for it. Duke did. I'll tell you, they list chapter and verse every year the fraud, waste, and abuse of this government. The absolutely outrageous things that Congress members think they can get away with. Yes, last year, counting to how far above the caps. You guys put caps on spending. You exceeded the caps by something like $90 billion. All of it from Senator Byrd on down. I mean, if it was up to Senator Byrd of West Virginia, the entire capital would have been moved to West Virginia by this time.
The only thing they cut was defense, Roger,
I know. So, and this is the Republican-controlled Congress. So, I mean, that kind of talk really pushes my button. But you were obviously pushing this guy's button, I'm sure, with this kind of talk.
Yeah.
What did you say back?
I told him that the government is taking our money and wasting a lot of it. And he acted like, yeah, right.
So what's wrong with that?
Then he told me, like, gave me a figure like, well, let's see, he gave me a lot of figures.
Yeah.
I can't remember them all.
Well, I bet he was there to defend big government to the end. Well, you got it. That's a nice conversation to have because you can see the other side of the kind of mentality.
I also spoke with a Southern Democrat, a Blue Dog.
Yeah. Which one was that?
It was Representative Bishop of Georgia, and he was really nice. The aide I spoke with, the representative supports Bush's tax cut plan, and he voted for it in the House. And I got a bag of Georgia peanuts while I was there.
All right.
That's pretty good. All right, let's see behind you there. Thank you. What's your name?
Mike Miller, Roger.
Hey, Mike.
And first off, I want to thank whoever your staff is that set up these teams. I got to tell you that, bar none, I think our team was one of the best, and I don't know how you did it and how you divided things up, but I appreciate it. I had the afternoon we spent with a representative aide with Mary Landrieu. And I want to echo some of the things you said, and I'm excited about this, is that the first thing out of a Democrat's mouth is we agree with a tax cut. And I remind them that 8 years ago, I couldn't have heard that from them come hell or high water. And I'm certainly pleased with that. And we hit them with some statistics also, including the 1% of the GNP. And I asked them if they thought a 1% pay increase would be worthwhile, and they unanimously said, no, you can't even buy a Coke with that. And I said, then why is it that I can't have 1% back of my money? Dumbfounded they were, and it has been a pleasure, and I am excited, and because the Democrats are on our side, and they don't know it, and we're here to make sure that they stay with us, and we're going to take them to victory, and that's what we're here for.
All right. Trent Lott and everybody in between, and I thank Bob Kilner for coming on. He's always, he told me as he left that he was a member of some kind of sadomasochistic club to come on this show, and he came on. We respected him for it. Tomorrow we're going to be talking with, let's see, with Denny Hastert and Grover Norquist and J.C. Watts and... how they are documenting that, and we'll do every morning. You don't hear us, but I'm on Congo News talking about what you guys are doing, so that the people back there are doing their email and doing their phoning and doing their backup for you, so that when you go to the offices, it's not something new. That's true. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Phaedra, and
oh, you're Phaedra Clapp, which you introduced previously.
Yes. My dad and his girlfriend and me went. We went to go visit Ben Nelson's office, and we were going to the elevators, and we saw Dianne Feinstein, and we tried to get her, but she was talking to somebody. She didn't even glance at us. She pushed the senator button, and she went right into that senator's elevator, and so that prompted us to go find out where her office was, considering it was on that floor. We found her office, and I saw a stack of little flyers about that said her California constituents could come and talk to her on Thursdays at 8:30 in the morning for a breakfast, and it was not government funded either. It said at the bottom, and we decided that we wanted to see if we could get to it, but the receptionist said that it's canceled. Surprise, surprise! And so we're gonna show up anyways because we think it's a ploy, but you know, we'll see what happens with that.
The boxer one is coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to that too.
Yeah, so that's lined up to go to the boxer one. Okay, so how are we doing on the White House tour?
We haven't, Mr. Harrison hasn't figured out Roger, here's what I can offer.
All right.
This is the People's House. You're in the United States Capitol. First guy to ever broadcast from there, incidentally.
That's right.
It's 9 o'clock at night, and we have the run of this entire Capitol. I will personally take anybody on a Capitol tour right now as soon as we break here. But wait a minute, here comes Harrison right now with the good news.
I called them. They're supposed to call back, but they haven't done it yet.
Now, here's the thing. Yesterday, Brian Bilbray showed up, and I think gave a tour. How many people went on Brian's tour? Okay, so how many people would like to go on a tour right now of the Capitol with Duncan Hunter? Okay, there's a number of people. Good. All right, Duncan, so you can do that. But I think on the White House, we're, you know, because they told us too it was full up. This is the problem. And even though we're off season,
We got too many to get up.
there's just an amazing number of people going to that because of Bush being there. I mean, I can't believe it. So we're having trouble getting into the place. Bush's fault. It's all Bush's fault is basically what it is. All right. With that, New York Mike, the estate tax.
Hey, I just want to say, you know, in San Diego, Harley-Davidson, we can put out promotional advertising dollars in a lot of places, Roger, but putting it here instead of in some things where we've done a lot of work in the community. Yeah, you do a lot of stuff. You guys ended up working for us. I want to thank you for what job you guys have done. And when people like Bob Hill were telling me it's the money, let me tell you something. He can't pay me back for the years of blood, sweat, and tears. How many of my kids' baseball and football games I've missed and all the other sacrifices my wife has made for our business, everybody in business, what we put into those businesses is a lot more than just the money. And we deserve every bit of it. There are no boundaries to the efforts that we put in to build those businesses. There should be no boundaries to what the tax, you know, removal is.
There was certainly no boundaries to the risk you took.
That's exactly right. And by the way, when they tell you things like, oh, you got life insurance, let me tell you something, Roger. We cashed those policies in a lot of years ago to build those businesses.
That's exactly right.
So thank you for all the work, man. You guys
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you very much for being with us. Next on Roger Hitchcock, live from the Capitol Building in Washington, D.C. Jim and I went over to the White House. Inside stuff. New York Mike, thank you so much for taking. Did you take the kids out to? Did you take the kids out to dinner here?
You had a good time. They took me out to dinner.
They took you out to dinner. New York Mike, thank you for all the sponsorship, by the way. I mean, I love the fact that we've got these buttons out everywhere. We've got the tote bags visible. We've got the T-shirts out there, and people are having a good time.
Great time. Doing good work.
New York Mike Shelby, thanks for helping us out. He's here in person and drove the motorcycle.
Yep.
To get here all the way. Now, are you flying back?
Well, I'm flying down to Florida. My wife's mom is going to be 90 years old next week. The whole family's coming down. We're all going to join together, and you know, 90th birthday is pretty big.
That'll be great.
So we're all going down there.
All right, we're taking a break for news, and we'll be back live in the Capitol Building, live in Washington, D.C., live on your behalf to cut taxes in Washington. We'll be back after this.
Something to grasp. Well, we got to stay on Jimmy's call list. And when I called last week to find out the hours of the cafeterias, and the fellow that's in charge of guest services in the Senate cafeteria told me it has been so busy. He said you wouldn't believe it, because basically he said we try to accommodate senators and all of that, and if the public comes and we're too busy, you won't be getting in. So they're not as accommodating as the House side.
We were about 4 months away from getting in.
You know why I think it is? Because all the hearings have been going on. You know, it's been, I can't remember which particular day that was, but you forget about how many people it impacts.
Like what?
Are we going to go back to the cafeteria and eat breakfast at? I think we're going to go beyond that.
Are we going to the house side?
Oh,
We're on the dirt side. Senate side.
We'll do
This
the
isn't
Senate
our
side
stop, is it?
first.
There
This
it
is
is.
the place. Yes,
Only
this
one
is it.
stop.
Yeah.
Let's not get bored.
If you don't get off here, you'll be going back the other way.
Okay.
Yeah, now is that true?
You got to push it out.
Look. Get there.
All right, it's like the mic. You were like, what's the thing up?
We'll go up.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's right next door. Where's the tunnel?
John,
I was willing to run him on the tree.
you going back to the Capitol?
Can I go in here?
That goes to the Capitol. Hi.
How are you?
Tired. Hungry. Over there, talking to Helen. We've met every one of our congressmen. Well, somebody in the offices. Two senators so far. This is a hot building, is what it is. It's rather interesting, though. Rather interesting.
It was really
now, this is all I've got
wonderful.
for now
They
until I get back to the
support
hotel.
tax.
Well, that's great. That'll be good.
That'll help us.
That'll do it.
We didn't have any luck with Dodd because he's in Connecticut. Tell
Joe,
him.
we met Joe at Dr. DeWine, Senator DeWine's office, and he was really sweet, and he told us that he wasn't going to back off on the tax issue.
That they support Bush all the way. So that was a good visit. Yes. Right. So we're on to the Hart Building now.
Good.
Oh. Yeah, well, here I am.
Where are you off to?
I'm off to see one of those senators on the left, and I hope we get to go in. Senator and a Hart. Oh, this is Hart Building. Yeah, we're going to see some congressmen first. We're throwing our schedule off because of our wheelchair that we find is a very efficient walker.
Oh, really?
See how it works there? It gives Ray Kuhn equilibrium as he goes.
Good idea. Dedicated. You're
I'm the pusher here.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're dedicated.
The only thing I can do here is push this thing. They hired me out at about $25 an hour, but I'm going in here and complain about it. I want a raise.
You're in the pushing union?
You're going to go by the DEA if you get a pusher permit.
How are you doing?
Doing good. So far, we're heading off to see our senators here this morning. All right, let's go hit them.
Good to see you this morning.
Later.
Bye-bye. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Welcome to a special edition of the Roger Hitchcock Show. Hold their feet to the fire 7. Today, Roger and a crew of 100-plus listeners converge on Capitol Hill to lobby for the president's tax package and reform the IRS. And now, the host of your community forum, Roger Hitchcock.
Here in Washington, D.C. on a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. today. A little windy in the start, but boy, blue sky, the welcoming San Diego kind of weather here in San Diego, in capital city of Washington, D.C. What kind of San Diego weather, I thought. This is, as I mentioned, our third broadcast of the 3. Flying home tomorrow. We'll be in San Diego for the broadcast live tomorrow. We're today going to be just going through the lobbying teams. We're going to talk about the people you've talked with, the reaction you're getting, and we're also going to take your reactions in the listening audience at 1-800-600-KOGO, all over Southern California and in San Diego at 569-TALK, 569-8255. And right off the bat, the gentleman from Oklahoma, J.C. Watts, joins us.
Before, but I've never done it with your audience in the audience.
That's the way radio's got to go. I love the live audience. Isn't it great?
I had no clue what I was coming to this afternoon. I just knew that I was going to do your show. But let me tell you, this is what you call bringing the water to the desert.
That's right. That's too bad. Here we are. There's 103 people. They're lobbying for the Bush tax cuts, which of course passed in the House last week. We were terribly gratified to see. They've been concentrating on the Senate. Today, however, some of your colleagues, DeLay and Army and another number of others in the leadership and others were having a press conference saying, well, you know, given the way the deteriorating economy is, shouldn't we be doing more? Shouldn't we be maybe accelerating some of the benefits? Shouldn't we be giving even more of this tax refund that George Bush talked about? How do you feel about that?
Well, 1.6 trillion should be a floor. That should not be a ceiling. And you consider that 68% of the economy is driven by consumer spending. So it is good for the economy and for job security to give people their money back to buy appliances, to buy food, to buy clothes, to pay for shelter, to pay for car insurance. That's what we saw in the Dow today, what we've seen in the stock market for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think continues to confirm what President Bush said during the campaign, what he said post-inaugural, is we need to give people some of their money back because that's good for job security and economic growth.
What do you think the specifics might be as you look forward in this legislative year? I know we've talked a lot, and it's been all over the press about the estate tax, and we had some discussion yesterday about that. We had, of course, the marriage penalty being taken out, those kinds of things. Is there anything else that you see coming up that's going to result in more money in our pockets?
Well, there's this $1.6 trillion package has several different pieces to it, and the reason we're rolling it out one at a time is because when you pass a $1.6 trillion package, the Democrats always fight it and say, oh, $1.6 trillion, and they never talk about the benefits to the American people. I've taken $1 out of my pocket here, and I've taken 6 pennies out here. And I want to put this in perspective. The Democrats are saying that $1.6 trillion is too much. Roger, what we're offering over the next 10 years actually equates to 6 pennies of every dollar that comes into Washington. We want to give it back to your listening audience and the people in my district and those moms that have to buy school clothes every year and send school lunch money to school every day. 6 pennies of every dollar. 94 cents is going to stay here in Washington. 6 pennies. And the Democrats are saying, that's too much.
Too much.
That's too much. And I think that's unfortunate that the people that create the surplus, your listeners, the people back home that I represent, they're the ones that create the surplus. The only way I can get money into the appropriations process is to take it from your listening audience, take it from their income, their business, or put a government fee on something that they use. Or I can vote to borrow it. But even if I vote to borrow it, I pay it back by taxing your income, taxing your business, or putting a government fee on something that you use. And now for some to have the audacity to say that we should not give people their money back to help them pay their bills. We should keep it here and let old JC and his 434 buddies in the House determine how it should be spent. That dog just doesn't hunt with me.
JC Watts from Oklahoma. And, you've been in the leadership now for a couple of years, and I want to get a little glimpse of the future for JC Watts. You've had such a great career everywhere you've gone in whatever role of life you've been in. Now you're in the political role. Where do you think you're going from here?
Well, Roger, the American people, they have been awfully good to me. The citizens in Oklahoma, and specifically the 4th District of Oklahoma, they've been awfully good to me the last 6 years. They've elected me, and they've re-elected me. I don't know. I never got into politics for it to be a career. I've got 2 young kids at home. We still have 3 of our 5 kids are at home. 2 of them are under 12, so that makes it very tough. I commute back and forth home every weekend. I'm traveling around the country, so I've missed a lot of parent-teacher conferences, dance recitals, Little League baseball and basketball and flag football. So at some point in time, I want to pass the torch. Hey, I'm old colleague here,
Brian Belford has slipped into the room.
At some point in time, I'm going to pass the torch and go and get a real job. But I've really enjoyed the last 6 years. The last 2 years, has been quite a fascinating time being in leadership. I've often said that if God only gave me 2 years to live, I'd want to live them in leadership because they've been the longest 2 years of my life.
But I have enjoyed it.
Well, speaking of long times, we have an interview coming up with Barbara Boxer. We have Dennis Hastert, the Speaker of the House. We're going to get a little bit of that going. And Brian Bilbray just did join us. And Brian, you're hard to work back here. And even though you're no longer in the House, your presence is still felt here on our behalf.
Well, Brian and I were elected together back in 1994. And I was in his district a time or two. I've been to California quite a lot over the last 6 years, and Brian's was an awfully good friend to me and was awfully good to me in my leadership role. It helped me get elected to leadership, so it's good to see him. I saw him on the floor yesterday. I didn't get to speak to him. I didn't get to holler at him, but it's good to see him.
Well, I was in awe. If any of you saw the absolute greatest speech that was made on the tax cut was JC's speech about being taxed to death, about waking up in the morning and getting taxed for this and everything from, and I loved it because he finishes it off at night. You go to kiss your wife, good night, and they tax you for being married. And they tax you to death, and then when you're dead, they tax you too. And JC, you executed in perfect timing. You know, that's that Baptist preacher upbringing. You know, I'll tell you, I think Roger and I will say as two Catholics, we really do, resent the fact that you guys have a real advantage over us because you just really can flow.
Well, and just consider that. Just think about it. And Republicans, Democrats, regardless of who you are, just consider the fact that you do. You get taxed from the time you get up in the morning, from the time you go to bed. You get taxed when you get out of bed. You get taxed when you take a shower. You get taxed on your water. You eat your breakfast. You get taxed on your food. You put your clothes on. You're taxed on your clothes. You go and get in the car and drive and stop and get some fuel. You're taxed on your gas. You go to work. You clock in. You're taxed on your income. You know, you go in and you turn your light on in the office. You're taxed on your electricity. You come home in the evening. You flop down the lazy boy. You watch ESPN. You're taxed on your cable.
Fox News Network.
Fox News Network. That's right. And then, you know, as I said last week in closing the debate, you know, if you go to your knees and you pray to a true and living God at night, you get off your knees, you kiss your wife, you think that's free, but it's not. They have a marriage tax.
They have a marriage tax, right there.
And then if you die, they tax death. And so you can't get away from us. We get you everywhere you turn. And so, you know, for those people that think that we pay too much in taxes, you know, well, let me say this, it's a very short line. If you want to get in a short line in life, get in that line of Americans that believe they're undertaxed. Nobody believes that. The American people need tax relief. It is fair. It's the right thing to do. It's good for job security, economic growth. We're going to make it happen. We've got a president that wants that. We've got a House and a Senate that will fight for that. And I cannot thank you enough. As I said, Roger, I had no clue what I was coming to. I thought I was going to do a simple radio interview. But thank you for being here today and bringing the water to the desert, leaving your families, leaving your homes, coming to Washington and saying to all of the members of Congress that this is very important for the American people. And
see what I mean? Just the way this flows, the great communicator number 2. Yeah, I'll tell you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, J.C. Watts. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
You're a great American and you're a great guy.
Well, thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. Line, Senator Barbara Boxer of California. Senator, welcome to Kogo.
Thank you.
You know, I know a number of our Hold Their Feet to the Fire folks were out to your breakfast, and they appreciated the opportunity to get to talk to you about this tax cut. And
it was great to see them. You have them really fired up.
Well, they're fired up on their own, I think. I don't know.
Well, I don't know what, Michael, what is this? Hold their feet to the fire. Now, what does that mean? What?
Radio talk show with Roger Hitchcock.
Oh, Roger. I know him well. Hold their feet to the fire. It's burning down. You guys are tough. You're for the tax cuts. Well, when I get through explaining them, I don't think it's I'm going to give you a presentation which might open up your mind just a little bit on why it's going to wreck the economy. Bush ran. He called himself a compassionate conservative, and I think that's good, and I think he's a really nice man. Okay, but I look at this tax cut, I find it is not compassionate and it's not conservative. It is not compassionate because you saw the illustration. It's not compassionate. It's also not compassionate because we're going to have to squeeze a lot of things in the budget, like Medicare. He doesn't even protect Medicare in a lockbox. We tried yesterday. We did get a couple of Republican votes. We needed 60 votes. We got 53 votes to put Medicare in a lockbox. We got every Democrat, I believe, and a couple of Republicans, but we needed 60 because of the rules. And therefore, Medicare is right out there unprotected in the Bush budget. So it's not conservative because, again, it doesn't pay down all the debt, which is what I want to do. I want to pay down all the debt, $5 trillion worth. It ought to be gone. And in order to do that, you can't give quite as big a tax cut. So I hope that, you know, I don't expect everyone in the room to agree with me. So that's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Groups come up. So the first group I'd love to come up is hold my feet to the fire, and let's do a photo, and we'll send it, okay? If you guys want to come up, you'll have them in.
I remember when you were at City College.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Hi. So nice to see you all. I'm glad you're here. Come on around. Is this the feet to the fire group, all of you?
Sure.
Hi, good to see you. Come
Before
on
we
around.
get all compiled in here.
Well, we're going to do a photo.
Oh, I hope so. Could you sign my copy of the Federalist Papers?
Yes.
While we're standing here, please? All right. And so far, Representative Filner has been the only Democrat to come downstairs.
Oh, I'd love to. I did it last time.
Okay.
I'd love to debate on the tax cut.
Oh, here we are. 6 to 9. It's a little late.
I'll arrange to phone you.
Here it is. There's your phone number. That number.
Michael, I want to call into this show.
Okay.
This is the cell phone for getting hold of Jimmy, and Jimmy will make sure. So she'll call this number here?
Yeah.
Call that number.
Tell David that
Okay.
I want to do it when I'm out at the event. I'll just call him for 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Anyone who wants to stand up with me?
You guys part of this group?
Yeah.
Everybody, look up here, please. And one more. Great.
All right, how about that? Is that us too?
That's you.
Oh, great.
We're doing a documentary on
Oh,
these.
how wonderful.
We had 16 kids from
So great that you came. It's so good that you came. Thank you all very, very much. And I'll call him tonight. Tell Roger.
I'll tell him.
You can come. You can come. I can't come because I have an event tonight. But I can call in. We're not going to the event.
No, that's fine. No, because I'm going to send
that.
these pictures to all the ones right here in this group. So you won't get it.
I will.
I love to go.
Oh, we are. So
Oh, okay.
we were double duty.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, Filner, I shook his hand last night. I said, he's been there every night.
It's good to see that you've changed your mind and agreed with tax cuts. And we
I
hope
always
that
have.
eventually that you'll...
No, you don't understand. I always have been on for $500 billion.
Well, we've been talking before this, but thank you very much.
I'm
going to send all the pictures to Mr.
A lot of them didn't agree with, everything I said, but they were most respectful, and we had a good visit. So it was great. I like it when people come here because, whatever their point of view, it just shows that they're alive and they care, and that's, to me, the most important thing.
Absolutely. Senator Barbara Boxer, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it very much. Thanks for your time. Barbara Boxer, all right. Now, once again, let me just tell you what you heard. And Ellen Rander here will give her spin because she always does. We'll have her on in a minute. But the spin really, it seems to me, is pretty clear on this one. Barbara Boxer says there will be a tax cut, number one. Number two, Barbara Boxer says we probably are going to have to accelerate the impact because of the deteriorating economy. Number two, that's very important. That's different than we heard even a week or two ago. Grover Norquist is with us he's the president of Americans for Tax Reform. He's actually the point man for a coalition that's building behind the tax cuts, a coalition of grassroots and think tanks and organizations all over this country. Grover Norquist, you've heard this argument that government has this role, that there are a lot of things that ought to be done. What's your view? Jump in here.
Well, I think there are a lot of things that need to be done. The question is whether people are going to do them as individuals cooperating with each other through the private sector, through voluntary actions, or whether the government will do it by taking your money by force and having people with guns decide how to run your life for you. And I mean, the congressman was saying, look, there are two different ways.
Now, why is she an extremist and he is not? Listen to what he just said. He set up a two-pronged thing of which nobody believes in this country. I mean, nobody said... That is not the dichotomy. That is not the dichotomy in this Congress. That is not the dichotomy in this nation. It's not all or one. It's a question of where that balance is. And nobody is taking your money by guns. And nobody is taking.
They are. You go to jail if you don't pay. What do you mean baloney? You go to jail.
I don't know where you get.
Bob, wait a minute. Let's try to get the facts straight.
We do that by a Democratic representative government.
Bob, under the
guns.
With guns under the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code. If you don't pay, you go to jail. That's force.
And we have a Congress that could change that law. We have a do we live in a democracy or not?
The founder.
Do we live in a democracy or not?
The founder, as you see it, of your party, Thomas Jefferson, said, "Government is force." That's all I heard Grover Norquist just say.
Well, I mean, that's the most extremist argument I could have. Nobody. I don't see anybody. I don't see anybody. I don't see any guns on anybody's back.
Grover, go ahead.
You know?
Grover, go ahead.
Well, there are two views, and this is where there's a disagreement here in Washington and around the country. And if you looked at that, that very interesting map with the Bush red and the Gore blue, there's a difference of opinion. And the center-right coalition since Reagan is a different Republican Party conservative movement than existed, for 100 years before, when you sort of had the North against the South. Two regional parties. We now have, post-Reagan, the center-right coalition, the Republican Party, the conservative movement, is a collection of groups and individuals that on the issue that brings them to politics, what they want from the government is to be left alone. And when you think of who's in the... You have in the center-right coalition taxpayers. They don't want other people's taxes raised. They want their own taxes lower. Small businessmen and women, they're not asking for small business stamps. They just want to be left alone, not regulated or taxed out of existence. Gun owners, hunters, they're not running around insisting that fourth-grade kids be taught books entitled "Heather Has Two Hunters." They just want to be left alone. Homeschoolers who want to be able to raise their kids as they see fit. So anyway, the alternative coalition, a takings coalition, views the proper role of government as taking things from some people and giving it to other people. The trial lawyers, the big city political machines.
These are the people who have used our roads, who have used our infrastructure to make their own wealth as well.
Okay. Well, right now, the government is awfully large and does a great number of things. I think if we could move to where the government took less resources from people, had less intrusive control over their lives, that we'd all be better off. And I think if you look around the world, the difference between North and South Korea is how much government they have. The difference between East and West Germany was how much power the state had versus the individual. And it's a big continuum. We're not anywhere near where the East Germans were, or even where the Swedes are, or even where the Canadians are with their 65-cent dollar.
And West Germany is nowhere near where you are. So.
No, West Germany is much more statist than we are, and not as successful as a result. So I think, and one of the problems that more statist societies have are the kind of shortages you get in California when you have the government decide the price of power.
There you go.
Let's take a break. I'm Roger Hitchcock. 1-800-600-KOZO. Our phone number. We'll be back live in the Capitol. The situation is out of control already. I mean, it was a very interesting and strong indication that we're way out of bounds from our constitutional origins.
Oh yeah, they have no interest in what we have to say.
Rich, thanks for the call. I tell you, these people have made it their point to let their Congress members know how they feel. Let's in fact talk to one of the folks who've been lobbying here. Joe Duran, are you out there?
I'm right here, Roger.
How's it been going for you and your team?
Well, it's been quite an experience. We've met everybody on our list and got a response from everybody. We finally got in and saw Senator Hollings today. Well, not the senator. We saw his aide. He gave us about 20-25 minutes and pretty much was on the side of the Democratic proposition when I brought out the tax cuts of the after the World War I and in the 60s and in the 80s. he didn't have much to say. He actually at one time said, well, I don't have those figures available to me when I told him that the economy grew after that. But it's been quite an experience. This last half hour does show that there's a lot of people on this Hill that think that everything emanates from here, and I'd like to say that I don't believe that.
All right, thanks very much. Here's a couple of our high school students, Danielle and Fadia.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And you guys were talking to who today? Who have you been talking to?
We actually had a chance to speak to the Senator of the House.
So, I'm sorry, the what?
The Speaker of the House, excuse me.
Speaker of the House, yes you did.
Yes.
I was there.
Yes.
I heard you.
Yeah.
We also had a chance to attend Barbara Boxer's breakfast this morning, which was quite an experience. Yes, she went ahead and introduced all the groups that went, and then she came up to hold their feet to the fires. Who are those people? And so, gentlemen in she says, oh, who are they? So a gentleman in the group came up and told her where we're from. We're from the Roger Hitchcock Show and why we're here. And went ahead and told us that we need to be more open-minded. And that was kind of thinking maybe the other way around. But and then she just went on saying that President Bush's tax plan is not compassionate and not conservative, and saying that the top 1% only pays 21% of the taxes instead of 43%, so they shouldn't be getting all the money that they need to. And just it just wasn't a good thing, but
it's interesting that she told you that, and that's the standard Democrat line. But you notice when she got on the program here, I didn't hear any of that. About the need for a tax cut, and certainly we're in favor of that, and all this kind of language, which politically speaking tells me that you folks and public opinion and all that's been said and this deteriorating economy is having an impact on the Democrats and those who oppose this tax cut. It's very interesting. So, what else did you do?
Well, we did get to speak with the Speaker of the House, and he just told us that he did support Bush's tax plan. He was against the trigger, that he did want to keep the ball rolling, and he was very nice, and it was very exciting to be able to speak with him.
Interesting. We were in his inner sanctum there.
Yes.
The Speaker's, what a nice suite of rooms he has. Oh my goodness, the patio there, looking down the mall.
It was beautiful.
It was nice, wasn't it? Now, let's take a small businessman who came, and I've been bragging about the composition of this group, from high school students to seniors to business owners to professional people to truck drivers. All kinds of people are in this group. And let's find out about you, sir. Robert.
Yes, my name is Bob. Came here with my 16-year-old son, and we've been spending the last 3 days in the Senate with the Democrats. For 3 days, we've been debating taxes. They want to sit down and talk about tax theory. It's too much of a cut. There's too many needs, and what we've done is we hand them a picture, my wife and 9 kids, tell them that we own a small business, have for 16 years. I am driven to make a profit. If you let me enjoy that profit, stop penalizing me, I will spend more money, more capital at risk. I'll hire people, and I'll work harder, and you'll get more money. If you keep this weight on me, penalize me for making a profit, then I will spend less capital, I'll hire less people, and you'll have less money. So set me free.
Set me free. Now, what about that, Gary Miller? I mean, I'm going to send you a tape of this. The societies with the most opportunity are the market-driven societies, not the command-driven socialist societies. John, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Let's go back out to our audience. And hi there, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Melissa Huezo, and I'm a freshman at RB High. And today I also went to Barbara Boxer's breakfast, and I was really mad at what she was saying. And I didn't agree with it, and I would have walked out with him over there. And
you were ready to walk out of the breakfast?
Oh. Yes, I was that mad. I was,
Kevin walked out. What?
Yeah.
Kevin Cheney.
Yeah, he walked out.
Now, Kevin Cheney said, wait, you walked out, Kevin Cheney couldn't even take it, could you?
No, I couldn't even take it. When she started blaming Republicans and Ronald Reagan for our national debt, I walked out and told her that she was mistaken, stormed out of the room.
Did you have a chance to talk to the senator?
Actually, I didn't really care to. You know, I'm just waiting for that picture to come so I can hang it up on my dartboard right there and practice. And I don't think that Bush is the one who's not compassionate, not conservative, and I think that it's Boxer, yes. I think it's Boxer.
Conservative and not compassionate?
I think it's Boxer who's the one. And today I also met with Sam Farr, and he was a very nice man. And but he was telling me that he did not vote for the tax cuts, and he was saying that people care about more different things right now, and that Napster is more popular than the tax cuts right now. That most of the mail he gets on a scale of from 8 to 1 of ratio is that the 8 is the Napster and the 1% is the tax cuts. And then I'm wondering, well, what is all this mail from Napster from? I bet you more than likely it's from a younger crowd. A lot of people here, I know there's some people who don't even know what Napster is, you know, so I really could care less about Napster, and I mean, more interested in the tax cuts. And I mean, they think that we don't know much because we're young, but we do listen and we do know.
High school kids don't know what's going on. All right. Let's go to our live audience. Hi, sir. What's your name?
My name is Sig Watney from Santa Barbara.
And Sig, I think he's the farthest away from San Diego's come on our trip, Sig. I appreciate that. And you've been out there pounding the marble halls?
Pounding the halls, all marble floors, and it's been a great experience.
What
we had a secret weapon as well. That was a graduate from Santana High School, now a student at San Diego State, Becky Hicks. And she was great in getting us into various offices. It was good that you put some Republicans on our list because it got a little discouraging after visiting a lot of Democratic offices.
I wanted to put you guys into the real world.
Well, every so often we got called back to the real world for sure. I attended Boxer's breakfast this morning, and she had about a little over 20 groups represented there. I thought it was rather interesting that she made a statement that Bush is a nice person. However, he's not compassionate, and he is not conservative. So anyway,
not conservative.
Well, I don't know what she meant by that. Anyway, it was kind of a remark that she made. My final thing was that I got to see our representative from Santa Barbara. She came out of the doorway just as I came up to the doorway. Lois Capps, yeah. You got it.
Yeah.
Nice lady, little misguided, but a nice lady. So that's the reason really why you got Boxer on was that Bill Young, who is on our team, went up with the card with your phone number to Boxer right off when she was through, and I'm sure that's why she called you.
That's great. Well, good work. Thank you very much. Here in Washington, D.C., live with our Hold Their Feet to the Fire gang, and we'll have more reports from them in a moment. We haven't talked very much about the reforming of the IRS, but you should know that is a follow-up as well. I have an interview we did earlier with the Speaker of the House, Dennis Hastert. I want to play that in a moment. We also have a number of reports to be done, but let's get to our teams of lobbyists. Hi, what's your name?
Marie Romero, and I'm from Vista. My husband and I hit the pavement running this morning. We visited our 22 congressmen, or House of Representatives people, and the first one that I wanted to report on was the Democrat of Mississippi in the 4th District. His name is Ronnie Shows. He did not vote on the Reagan tax cut, and on the Bush tax cut, I'm sorry. But he has reported to the congressional record that the reason why he didn't vote on that particular bill was because his wife's mother had passed away and her funeral was the day of the vote. But if he had been here, he would have been the 11th Democrat to vote for the tax cut. Then at 5:30 this evening, we finally got to meet a congressman, other than the ones that have been here on the show.
Right.
And we were able to speak to Connecticut's Democrat congressman from the 5th District. His name is James Maloney, and he favors a marriage tax penalty reduction and reducing the death tax And he thinks that paying down the debt is the biggest thing to stimulate the economy. So he wants 1/3 in a tax relief, which I think, isn't that what Bush wants? No. Or 29%?
Yeah, Bush's tax cut amounts to 29 or 30%.
That's right. And then he wants 1/3 of it to go to debt reduction, and then the other third to go to Medicare and Social Security. So I really couldn't see the difference between what what Bush was asking for and what he...
The next question you need to ask him is, how would he use the 1/3 tax cuts? Because most of the Democrats are saying it's not going to go to the people who actually pay the taxes.
Well, his dinger on this whole thing was the reason why the stock market has gone down in the tank the last few days is because the House voted to approve George Bush's tax cut. Yeah.
There's another guy who missed econ and second lecture.
In all the middle of this, we were going back and forth to the various House offices, and before we came, I had made in the most vivid, bright, whatever this is, fuchsia. Flyers, just kind of a little flyer to just drop in the offices. Well, we went to 160 offices by ourselves today and dropped this flyer in those offices.
Let's go to the to our teams again. Hi.
Hi, Roger. My name is Maria Grassa, and I could tell you all the things that we went to see all our Congress people, but I'm going to let everybody else talk about it because it's more or less the same thing. But I want to take this time to say hi to all my kids listening. Roger, to my son Christopher, who works with your banker, he told me to tell you that.
Good.
Angela, Russell, all the grandkids, Flo, and I want to say to all the listeners that the next time Roger has one of these trips, go for it. An experience you'll never forget. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you. We've also, I think, made a real impact, as you could hear from these interviews. From the first day to this day, there was quite a difference and quite a shift, I thought, in the interviews. We were getting very strong anti-tax cut kind of statements being made in the first day. Here was Barbara Boxer again, only one example, sounding like she was going to vote for a tax cut by the time we got to the third day. So maybe the combination of effects, the worsening economy, the public opinion polls, which seem to be now strongly moving toward favorability on the tax cut, strongly moving towards seeing the tax cut as the #1 issue, more than education for the first time in a poll that was released yesterday. Very interesting trends going on here, which we're like surfing the big wave here, taking advantage of and adding our weight to it. So it's been kind of an interesting procedure. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Jean McKee.
Hi, Jean.
Hi. This was a very interesting kind of a thing to do. I'd never realized what in the world it was to visit congressmen or congresspeople and senators and whatnot. Of course, we didn't see them, but anyway, most people were so nice. They were just delightful. And but we got into one sort of late in the afternoon who, as soon as he found out what we were trying to do, he just scooted us right out. And I was very annoyed. I thought that was very rude.
This a staff person did this?
Yes, a staff person.
Of what Congress member?
Shall I tell you?
Oh, sure.
Bob Mascara from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It was his young man who was the aide.
But sometimes when you get that kind of reaction, because usually, I mean, they're trained to be polite to constituents. This is a thing they do. But when you get that kind of reaction, it's also frustration on their part.
Oh, really?
That they're losing.
Oh, I hope he was. Okay, you know. Well, it was 5 o'clock. I think he is probably.
Well, that was another thing, too. Except for Duncan Hunter's office, where they work 17.4 hours a day average. The staff people there, that, you know, the rest of them at 5 o'clock, the bell rings, they're gone. Thanks very much. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good girl.
Yeah, Roger. Jerry Westcott, San Diego, of course. Well, I had an interesting one that I thought we'd bring to your mind, and I talked to you about it on the steps. That we talked to Russ Donovan, who is the legislative assistant for Brad Sherman, the 24th district in California, and he indicated, spent some time with us, and was very nice, a likable guy. In talking to him, though, he kept saying, "Yes, we think there's going to be a tax cut. We believe in it, but it's the size of it that we're having a problem with." He says, "And my congressman," he said, "my boss is a CPA, so he understands the numbers." And I said, oh, fine. And he kept talking about too large, and he was mentioning that it was $2.5 trillion. And he said that a couple of times, and I said, what do you mean $2.5 trillion? I said, this is supposed to be a 1.6 trillion tax bill. And he said, well, what you're not adding in, he says, is the interest on the money that the government's not going to get.
Are we still on?
So,
still on?
We're back on.
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So what he said is, he said, well, what you're forgetting, Jerry, he says you're not adding in the interest on the money that the government's not going to get.
Interest on the money they're not going to get.
Right.
Oh, I remember this conversation. Now, my reaction to that was, okay, if I'm a businessman and I expect to make $2 million this year, I only make $1.5 million, can I deduct the interest on the $500,000 I never got?
Yes!
I thought, holy smokes, there's, you know, where do you start when they pull that stuff on you?
Yikes. Yikes. Thanks, Jerry. That's great. In the... I want to see what he's been doing today. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Warren, and I just wanted to say hi to my family and my friends at Helix High School. And you know, sometimes it helps me relate our government to things that happen in our everyday lives. And I just wanted to say that, you know, when you go to a grocery store and you check out, you spend $16, right? You give them a 20. You want your change back. It should work the same way with our federal government. Let this be a clear message to our senators. We want our change back.
All right. Warren, thank you very much. We'll take a break for news and be back. We have who's over there? I can't even see. Hi there.
Hi. My name is Joe Stevens.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. And I just wanted to say hello to my dog, Spot.
Is this the one you're going to marry under our new domestic partner legislation?
I was privileged to attend Mrs. Boxer's breakfast this morning, and I was very much impressed with one thing she said. I was so much impressed that I decided to become a Democrat immediately. And what she showed was a beautiful chart of a yacht worth $50,000. And she said this is what a person in the higher brackets would get back with Bush's tax plan. Then she showed a picture of a little rowboat. This is what the person in the lower bracket would get back. And what made me decide to become a Democrat, I just don't think it's fair for Roger to get a yacht and me to get a rowboat.
Thanks very much. Hey, Sean Henderson's back there. Let me get Sean before I got just a couple of minutes to go. Sean, thank you so much for joining us again. You're a veteran of these Hold Their Feet to the Fire trips.
Yes, Roger, I am. And this trip I didn't get as much one-on-one lobbying in the halls of Congress, but what I have done in moving around Washington, you'll notice that 8 years ago we were talking about nationalizing 1/7 of the economy. 4 years ago we were talking about where the belt line on the chief executive was. This year we're talking about how big are the tax cuts going to be. I think George W. Bush has changed the tone in Washington.
Yay.
The second thing I would like to focus everybody on is not about dollars in your pocket. It's about freedom. It has been since the Boston Tea Party. It is today. Every dollar that Washington doesn't spend is a dollar that we are free to spend for the betterment of our lives and our families' lives.
Sean, thank you so much. Cunningham, Darrell Issa, Michael Harrison, Sandy Carter, thank you very much. Dennis and Diane Snyder, thank you for all the work. Thanks, high school students, for joining us. Linda Benham, thank you, the picture taking and all of that. Most of all, to all of you, thank you for participating. Thank you back home for supporting us. And this has been a wonderful trip. We'll be back in the studio, back in San Diego tomorrow.
How do you feel after all this?
I'm ready for about a 5-hour nap.
Only 5?
Well, that's all we'll be in the airplane. So, but it was a good week. It was a good week, and I'm glad we came.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was good.
It was good.
I would hate to think, that a senator can be swayed by one person's opinion. I would hope that our senators and congressmen have a higher ethic than that. But I think with 100 people at their doorstep, I think maybe we get their attention a little bit.
Well,
and I think that's what the process is. It's not the voice of one with some money in their pocket or.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what we're talking about?
No.
We want to go home, kick off our shoes, run around the house barefoot.
Naked.
We've had it. We've had it with being away.
You can take that off.
Lazy boy kickback, you know, whatever.
Watch Fox, Bill O'Reilly, a rerun at 8.
None of that matters as much to me as going and feeling that balmy air.
Oh, I know it. I just
air.
looked in the newspaper. It's like 65, 55,
Well,
and I'm going, yes.
It's the feel of it.
It's the feel of it, but I'll tell you, when I get home, or maybe even at the airport, and I get these poor little grandkids saying, no! That's everything. There you go.
Great. Filming to the, I'm tired. Oh, this is a vacation.
Yeah.
This, let's see, 13-hour days.
I was pretty much happy to come back with the same number of kids that
Yeah, the good news is we came back with the same number, or we hope we're going back with the same number that we came with.
Yeah. I didn't lose any. I didn't want to have to.
Whoa.
They're back. We returned your child. Are they going again?
Rats. We wanted a new one.
You want a refund on it? Oh, what is it? Well, that was a smart one. Will Washington ever be the same? You know, every time we go, they change it. They're not ready for people. They're only ready for lobbyists. People. Yeah, Roger sounded pretty wound up today on the radio.
There were amazing people. We were getting congressmen every night. We got J.C. Watts, Daddy. They had an interview with Trent Lott. They had an interview with Haster.
And all the San
Hey,
Diego.
Danny.
Who wants a tax cut? You want a tax cut? Raise your hand. Yes. Yeah.